Hey, and good evening, everybody. It's John Michael. This is our, now I've lost track. I think it's our fourth module in the course. Anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about mastering your internal um, state as a magical practitioner, as an esotericist, as a mystic, however you identify. Unfortunately, the class has begun already. It's 8 o'clock, and there is, as you can see, no one here. And I have been feeling over the last couple of weeks that this was a transition that we're making in our courses. And so, beginning with tonight's class, I suppose these classes will be pre-recorded and they will be uploaded to the classroom, and you'll get an announcement that they're available, but we won't do the live classes anymore. Once a month, I would still like, if there's interest, to have a sort of an open conversation with you, where some of the other instructors might join us as well. But I'm realizing that we're at a stage during the pandemic. It was so much easier because we were all stuck at home, and it was easy to come together, because nobody was going anywhere else. Now that we're in this post-pandemic phase, I think that, and I'm grateful for that, but I think that it's probably a better idea to make these classes available on demand so that everybody can watch them at a time that works for them. And of course, you can still interact with me. And if you have, personal questions that you want to talk to me about, we can still talk about those things, on video chat. But I won't be doing the live and interactive classes like this. There will be some live and interactive classes. There's going to be a course that's coming up, just to kind of give you a bit of a teaser, where we start to talk about burnout as an esotericist, and burnout in your practice as a tarot reader, an astrologer, a healer, or simply in your practice, over your spiritual practice overall. And that will be a course that will have some interactive modules, although the majority of them may not be. But for now, this course will continue with all of the modules being pre-recorded. And tonight, I wasn't intending to have a presentation with slides, because tonight is a time to connect one-on-one. So I still invite you to do that, even though you're not here live. Whenever you're watching this, take a few really deep cleansing and stilling breaths, because of the topic tonight. I want you to feel this instruction, this module, as much as hearing it. I want you to experience it. So take a couple deep breaths. Feel your shoulders soften, your neck relax. Feel your arms become a little more loose and relaxed, softened. And the topic tonight is coming into and mastering our internal state. And this goes hand in hand with what we talked about in our last module. See, I still really believe that, while terms could be debated, and maybe not everyone sees the events in their past as being trauma, there was something or some things in every practitioner's past. And it may be not an active thing, it might be an absence of something that causes us to turn to the esoteric, because a part of us knows there's a better outcome. So when I talk about traumas, not all traumas are like psychological traumas in the truest sense of the word. There can be things that are energetically traumatic to us, that we might not even realize until much later were energetically traumatic. They may seem like sad events. They may seem like disruptive events that didn't make us sad or make us feel off balance in the moment, but they had an impact on our energy. And so magical practice is nothing if not reclaiming that energy, getting back in touch with it. And when I say reclaiming, that's not even so much of an accurate term, because your energy has never been taken away from you. So we're going to start by deeper, more deeply unpacking the concept that you've heard me say many times, where I talk about how all we do in our magical practice is work with the energy around people and places and things and circumstances, and shift the energy around those things to conform to our will. But I want you to think about uh, the the uh, the truth, the science behind that. We know that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. We've talked about that many times. And so if energy can neither be created nor destroyed, and we know that scientifically, the animation of your body and my body, including the animation of our organs, of our heart, of our lungs, the things that keep us alive, is energy. Your body is expending energy at all times and generating energy at all times, or recycling energy. So that means that what makes us the us we see in the mirror is energy. Your body is an assemblage of different systems, different components. Your endocrine system, your cardiovascular system, all these systems working in tandem to animate and keep alive this self that we see. And so this self that you see, the self that you embody, or the body that your essence is held in, is a container. And I personally believe that we're here to experience all of the things that make us better at working with that energy, of connecting, reconnecting the parts of that energy that we've forgotten are part of us. And that's magic. But if you're energy, then you never disappear. You never go away. When the body dies, you don't die. And so people have said, my single greatest reason for wanting to do magic was to connect with my ancestors, to honor my ancestors, but I don't seem to be able to do it. Well, sometimes that happens because we still hold on to that illusion of separateness. So I thought tonight we would talk about your inner state as from a different perspective. When I say I sit down with my ancestors, when psychics talk about connecting with the spirits of the dead, there's a tendency in pop culture to think that means that we sit here. I'll give you a good example. When I sit with my mother and father every morning, along with my grandmother and my aunt, Zio Leo, whose birthday's today, all these people who meant so much to me in my life, I sit with them and I physically sit in their presence. But when I say that, that's psychic speak for what's actually happening. See, they aren't physically sitting here. I would give anything to be able to sit in the same room with my mom and dad again, to be able to hold their hand or feel them hold my hand, to be able to hug them and talk to them in person. But what actually happens when you're doing ancestral work is you're in the presence of who they really are, their essence, their personality, not their body. So that physicality isn't there. Now, our minds can be trained to see the body so we know who it is we're talking to. We can see a spirit form, but that's just energy assembling itself so that we have an easier time relating. The same thing happens with people who see apparitions, or people who work with their spirit guides and their spiritual court. The they can seem or feel corporeal, but those entities, just like my parents, are are existing, continuing to exist in a different plane from me. They're still just as real. And that plane isn't me over here, them over here, or over here. Those they exist as layers, non-hierarchical layers that are just energetic. And the only thing that's actually a bit hierarchical about it is that the energy is a higher vibration. And so once we're unencumbered by the body, the higher vibration version of ourselves is free. That's why it's a higher vibration, because it's no longer encumbered by the meat sack. But at the core of who you are, that energy that will exist for all time and eternity, that has existed from all time and eternity, that magic, that connection to source, that ability to shift energy, the ability to manifest and create things or destroy things, we often forget about that part, that has always existed and will always exist. And the personality that is what you identify as you and what others identify as you, that can always exist in some form as well. And at some point, it may be your decision to simply merge back into source, to become stardust again. Or you may decide that you want another expression. You want to merge into a new expression on the physical plane or on a different plane. But let's just look at the energy itself. So I want you to feel right now, you just place your hands in front of you. I want you to feel the tingling sensation in your palms, your fingertips, that happens when you bring your attention to the energy expressing itself and connecting you to source. That tingling sensation is source. It's the animating energy that makes you a person, that makes you more than just a stationary, impersonal object. Now, all things have spirit. Rocks have spirit. Plants have spirit. The elements have spirit. But the personality that you know is you, that animates you and allows you to move where we may not see the rock moving, that's the energy we're working with. It's the same energy that's in the rock. It's the same energy in the plant. It's the same energy that are in the so-called deities and orishas and spirits that are elevated, that are higher vibrational than us. But in order to have a successful magical practice, we have to be able to hold that energy. And so often, rather than relying on our scientific understanding and our awareness and our worldview, we allow society's worldview to influence us. And society's worldview tells us things like, this is really stupid, or this is a placebo effect, or this is not going to work for me, or I just don't know why I don't get the results that so-and-so gets. And the reason you don't get the results is really simple. It's fear. At the end of the day, that chaotic data, whatever the story is that's playing on your subconscious mind's level, that's standing in the way of you manifesting the things that you want to manifest, or destroy the things that you want to destroy, or shift the things that you want to shift, is your fear of, what if I can do that? And that fear takes many forms. For some people, it's a matter of not wanting to take a chance to lose something that's become a habitual identity. I was just talking to somebody that I dearly love about gender, and they were going through a period of gender dysphoria, but not feeling like they were trans, not feeling like they were cis, not feeling like they didn't identify with the body they were born with, but they didn't identify with the other people who were assigned to that particular gender at birth. They felt like they identified more and felt more comfortable with the opposite of gender of what they were assigned at birth. And so they said, so does that mean that I'm that other gender? And I explained it from my experience. The more that we open ourselves, the more that we allow ourselves to be in the moment. And when I'm going to use a word in a minute, but I want you to not think of it in the societal form, the more queer we become, meaning that we're not, that we break the binary, we break dualism, we reject all of those constructs. The more in the moment and true to ourselves, that to me is what queerness is really all about. It's breaking the societal mold, it's breaking the paradigm. The more we're in that space, the more that the ways that we were told we have to be, the constructs and the restrictions that were placed on us by society and by society's worldview fall away. And when that happens, it can be unsettling. When you find that you really are, as I've said many times, the one holding the pen that's writing your story, that could be frightening. And that fear is what holds you back from manifesting. And that's why in previous courses, I've talked about things like the one command or clinical EFT, that opens your awareness to the fact that there are other possibilities out there. And so your magical practice is the way that you express the reclamation of that power and the way that you change the outcome of the story. So in your life, let's say that your experience in relationships has been that other people are never as enthusiastic about sealing the deal as you. They never seem to give what you bring to the table back. So you take a look at that and you say, upon looking at it, maybe it's not that they aren't willing to give it back. Maybe it's that they're not giving it back fast enough. They're not meeting my expectations of giving it back. So that's a completely different story than nobody's ever willing to give me back the love I bring to the table, or the affection I bring to the table, or the support I bring to the table. And so you say, all right, now I have a clearer picture. The minute that you get that clearer perspective and say, they're not unwilling to do it. What if they're just not willing to do it on my time frame? Maybe it takes them longer to get to know someone, to be comfortable with physical intimacy. Maybe if they feel a particular connection with us that they don't feel with others, that they're willing to just jump into bed and screw around with, maybe that feeling they have for them is special in their minds. And they want to take that slower. They want that to unfold more organically. So now it's not that they don't care about you and they don't bring it to the table. They're bringing it to the table, but they may be bringing even more to the table than you are, because you're not comfortable jumping into that space, because maybe for your comfort level, the physicality has to work. Otherwise, then there's no sense trying to pursue the emotional. Neither side is wrong, but now you've identified where the shift needs to take place. You need to meet somewhere in the middle. And so you recognize that exists, but you're afraid that if you use your esoteric abilities, that you're manipulating the other person. So first, let's just say right up front, you're not going to ever have the ability, no matter what pop culture witchcraft says, no matter what magical books and traditions say, you don't have the ability to take away a person's free will, and you never will. And that's because we're all one. And if you took away their free will, your own free will is taken away. So all you could do is shift the energy around this, shift the energy around the circumstances, shift the energy around the feelings, create, we say in pop culture psychology, create a safe space for that relationship to express itself. Now, You can do that with specific colored candles, with your plant allies. You could do that with crystals. You can do that with incantations and spellcraft. You could do that with affirmations, with just spells, oral spells. You could do that by working with the cycles of the moon and looking to see when the best times are to spend time with that person. When is Venus going to have an impact on that Venus energy on that person? You could do all of those things or none of those things. You could simply at some point, and I promise you that this works and you'll start to experience it. You could simply at some point do what we did in the beginning. Just raise your hands and let yourself start to feel that energy, and recognize and state that the energy that is magic is also the energy that is love. It's the energy that's compassion. It's the energy that's justice and equality and equanimity. It's the energy that's truth. And so I recognize that energy is my energy now. And so any ideas I have of not being worthy, of others not meeting me at my point of need, fall away, because I recognize that their energy is love and compassion and equanimity and justice. And so I bring a imaginary or physical, or however it feels for you, ball of that energy. Now I want you to do that. Bring your hands together, and just as people do in some of the Eastern spiritual practices, you'll feel a tangible ball of energy between your hands right now, especially in your fingertips. You'll feel it. And I want you to close your eyes and ever so gently bring that energy out. Send it to that person. Send them love, send them comfort, send them a sense of wholeness, of justice, of compassion, whatever the situation is that you're working on. Not everybody's going to be working on relationships. Sometimes it's an injustice that's being done. Sometimes it's somebody that you see that's oppressed and you want to lift them up. And see, it's really weird that without even understanding what they're doing, sometimes people who use quote unquote prayer work the best magic, because they don't overthink it. They don't let their fear get in the way, because they imagine somebody else is going to do the work. They don't recognize that it's their own power that's doing the work. That's the difference between our tradition and others. We recognize that it's our power, but you use the same stuff. They're still saying that they want to connect with a higher power, with source, with spirit, and they're sending out their word to do its good and perfect work and return to them multiplied. And see, what I just did was begin to go through the formula for a spell. And the difference, what I really want us to get in this course is understanding that this doesn't have to be something that we do at the altar. This doesn't have to be something that we do only at a specific time and with certain tools and with our plant allies and our ancestors. This is something, and all of those things have their place. And for those for whom those practices resonate, as they do for me, that's why I'm sharing them. I only share with you the things that resonate with me. But they resonate for me. If they don't resonate for you, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It means you find within yourself the way of creating that space. Some of those who were part of the school have now moved on from the school to pursue things that they never thought were possible before taking these courses, because they now realize that it's their power that will direct and inspire the rest of their spiritual journey. Others have decided to dive deeper into the courses that we're going to be offering, because they realize every course builds on the next. And so they're ready for what comes next here. But everybody knows where they're supposed to be. And they move into that space. And they move into that space with all of my love, with all of my applause and just pride in the work that they're doing, because they're doing the work. And if you feel like you're stuck, like you're not getting results, then know that you should be proud of that, because you're recognizing that there is something that's getting you stuck. And it's just a matter of time before you find the thing, the chaotic data, that's serving like a hook that's holding you in that spot, and learn how to unhook it. And the moment you do that, you become liberated. So in talking with my friend about gender, I said, what if, since we're all energy, what if these ideas of strictly male and strictly female, these are constructs, just like race is just a construct. It doesn't even make sense. And from my perspective, male and female doesn't really make sense the way society lumps a bunch of things together to call it male. Aggression and toughness and being the provider and being strong, all of these things they attach to the body that has a penis. And that's not there's no logic behind that. There is no reason. We all know people who have penises who are not strong, who are not good providers, who are not the athlete. And the same way we say that the person who has breasts and a vagina and a womb is somehow supposed to be soft and passive and not as strong and beautiful. But many of those same people are stronger than anyone I've ever met. They are more resilient. They are more athletic. They are better providers. So that tells us that what society is telling us about male and female is wrong. And so my friend is experiencing that their wholeness comes from being somewhere else, and they don't know what that is. And they say, when I think about transitioning, that doesn't make sense, because I don't want different body parts. That's not what isn't resonating with me. I like the parts I've got. I totally can relate to that, because that is exactly who I am. I have no desire to have different body parts. I simply don't identify with being a man as society um, uh, defines it, and I don't identify with being a female or a woman as society defines it. Genetically, my parts are male. I present as male most of the time. But who John Michael really is queer, not male, not female. And I even hesitate sometimes to say non-binary, because that feels like it's something that is defined as well. Instead, I feel like I'm a boat on an ocean. And sometimes the boat goes over this way, sometimes it goes over that way, sometimes it goes in the center and moves back and forth. It never stops moving. Even if it's just rising up and down with the tide, it's ever in motion. And so are we energetically. There isn't a time when you're sound asleep, your body's still in motion. And so it is with your magic, because your magic is that energy, I would suggest, that animates your body. That magic is source. That magic is however you view 0 point energy, however you want to call it. And that energy is always in motion. So the way that we master our craft is to master our awareness. And that means mastering our inner state. It doesn't mean, and I do not wish to convey or pretend or portray myself as being someone who doesn't have fear. Fears arise for me just like they do for you. Dualistic thoughts arise for me just like they do for you. I have my challenges just like you have yours. And those challenges need the same approach, the same attention in order to be able to more effectively manifest. Now, what might be a little bit different between me and you is a couple things. One, that I've been doing this now for over 56 years. So I've had more experiences to show me that it works than the doubts that show up and say it doesn't. So I've been able to really move beyond the stage of dealing with imposter syndrome. But then there are other fears and doubts that come up along the way. The chaotic data is still there. We still have to delete it. We still have to replace it with good data every time it arises. But what I do that so many practitioners don't do in the beginning is I work constantly, continuously, not just daily, but moment by moment on my internal state. I get mad like everybody else. And when I get mad, I recognize that's a disruption of my energy. Now, I'm a geek, so I think of like the Star Trek energy field, the force field around things, and say there's a disruption. And there's a little Scottish voice, Scottish brogue, John Michael inside that says, she's breaking up, Captain. Hold on one second. I wanted to make sure that I didn't just pull that out, and I think I did. Still getting used to the new house. So there are little things that cause disruptions in our energy, and I work on those constantly. And I don't take time to in that moment, I don't take time to analyze why. Why did I get frustrated? See, when I've told you in other courses, at the end of the day, take a few moments. At the end of the week, take 15, 20 minutes or an hour. At the end of the month, take a couple hours. At the end of the year, take a few days to look back at what you've just experienced. And people, I guarantee you that more than half of the people that are participating in the class stop doing that a week or two after I taught it. But I'm going to say it again. At the end of the day, take a few moments and look at what you experienced in that day. If there were times that you felt like you weren't in control, like you didn't have your power, like someone else was writing the story, look at why. What beliefs do you hold? What have you been taught? What did society tell you that says you weren't the one that could have control in that moment? And write it down. Pop culture loves to tell you that, the journaling is so important. Talk about your feelings. They don't tell you, analyze your beliefs. Look at what the experiences you've had up until this moment. And that's what I mean often when I say trauma. Because even though somebody may have been really fortunate not to have had, sexual trauma, religious trauma, racial trauma, societal, economic trauma in their entire life, and there are many people who've not had any of those things, there are still traumatic beliefs that completely unsettle us and knock us off the seat of power. And so at the end of the day, you take a few minutes. At the end of the week, take 15, 20, 30 minutes and journal about this past week as a unit. And what did you learn there? At the end of the month, take an hour or 2 hours or even a day and do the same thing. And at the end of the year, take several days. Give yourself a little mini vacation, a mini retreat away from everyone and everything, and just look. Now, I do this every single year. I've done this since I was 21, 22, I think. That's why I have so many journals, because it's not that I just like to write. It's that this moves me in the right direction. So while pop culture will tell you, keep a grimoire, keep a book of shadows, and all of that sort of thing. And I'm not knocking that. If that's your tradition, it's your tradition. But I can promise you, having done both, that journaling and restoring myself to the right thought is so much more powerful than anything I've ever put in a grimoire. It's so much more powerful than anything I've ever written in a book of shadows, because it's the foundation from which I experience tomorrow or the next moment after I shut the book. I'm a new person energetically. This person that you are right now has never existed before. In this moment, you're a new person. And in a moment, you're going to be a new person again. And so once you restore yourself to the seat of your power, once you feel that energy, and there are a lot of exercises you could do. I personally highly recommend meditation, or yoga, or breath work, or qigong, or tai chi, those sorts of things, because they're really simple for most people to do some form of them. You know, if you're disabled and you can't do yoga, the Vedic style yoga, practice Kundalini yoga. There are many Sikh Dharma teachers of Kundalini yoga that have a YouTube channel, and practice that each morning. It's about doing that thing that restores balance and restores your energy and refocuses you on the point of power that is within you. It takes the locus of control out of this concept of society that it's someone out there or something out there, or this god or goddess or power, and it brings that power right back to where it's always been. It brings the focus of that power back to where it's always been. And the moment that you do that, you're literally reclaiming your power. You're saying, oh yeah, this is mine. And now I can understand why, if I write something down 3 times and I do that 6 times a day for 9 days, I get results. See, the magic isn't that you did the 3, 6, and the 9. The magic is that you understood that if you do that, you get results. Now, if you wrote it down 4 times and you did it for 5 days and you continue that for 12 days, then that's what you've decided is going to work. These are just formulas. A spell is a formula. It's one way to get to the top of the mountain. Somebody else's map might take them a different direction. Some ways to the top of the mountain are shorter. Some ways are more treacherous. And so it is with our magical practice. And that's what I want this course to continue to do. This is tonight's class is something I really recommend, as I do with all of the classes, but especially watch this twice. Don't even wait until later or tomorrow. Watch it again now. It's only going to be about a 45-minute class. So you'll spend an hour and a half just letting this information wash over you. Because the first time you heard it, there was still some societal programming that was saying, nah, it's, you should doubt that. You should doubt yourself. You should, you're just not good at this. This isn't your thing. The second time you hear it, you'll start to realize when that tape starts to play, you could say, no, not now. Don't get distracted by it and try and eliminate it right now. We're going to talk about techniques you can use to eliminate it. We're going to talk about some of the mechanics of the subconscious mind that interfere with our magic. And that happens to every single one of us. It'll happen to you for the rest of your life, I suspect. It happens to me every single day. But the difference is that when I understand what's happening, I can choose in that moment or later when I realize what I just did, to fix it. And then in so fixing it, then I get the result that I'm looking for. That's the difference in outcomes. That's the difference. But you have to get clear first. And so tonight, I hope this really helps to make some sense for some of you who've been getting frustrated, thinking, well, I must be an imposter. And maybe some of you, I know that there's a couple folks who said they stopped coming to the classes live because they felt like they just weren't on the same page as everyone else and they could never really get those results. And they wanted to figure out what they were doing wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. You're simply learning. And we all learn in our own way, at our own speed, and through different methods. So it might take a little while before you realize, oh, I can listen to what John Michael teaches, or Andrea teaches, or Dominic, or Alyssa, or Michael, or Megan. I can listen to what the instructors are teaching, but then I have to go to sleep and let my subconscious mind process it. Other people, while I'm talking, are picturing pictures and scenarios in their head, and that's how they're learning. And still other people might have to wait until they start journaling and they'll get their aha moments. All of those are good. All of those are right. Whatever works for you works for you. Some people have to just get their hands in it and do it. I was that kind of person. I had to get my hands in it and do it, and then ask, why did this work? So I get my hands in, and I try to have a beginner's mind, a baby mind, and say, I'm going to do this and it's going to work. And then when it works, I say, now let's figure out why it worked. I want to know exactly why, scientifically why. It's just how I'm wired. You may not ever care why it works. But if you're not getting results, it's really helpful to know why it works. Because then you could go through a list in your mind and say, where was I getting hung up? Where was the chaotic data seeping in? And then we can restore and eliminate that chaotic data. And we'll talk more about eliminating chaotic data. That's all I wanted to share with you tonight. Like I said, this is going to be a really gritty course. And there may be times when you feel like, well, this doesn't feel like I'm making any progress in my magical practice. I promise you, if you take anything away from tonight, take away the spending a couple minutes at the end of the day, a couple hours at the end of the week. An hour at the end of the week, a couple hours at the end of the month, and a couple days at the end of the year, and journal magically. Journal being aware of the things that you tried to do in that day that worked and didn't work. And while you're doing that, I want to challenge you this week to bring magic to 5 more things in the course of a day. So when you're cooking this week, then I want you to bring magic to cooking. So use the herbs that you use in the foods that you eat. Find out, you're going to, take basil, find out what that sweetens, find out what that's used for. If you're putting a bay leaf in a soup to increase abundance and prosperity and resolve some financial issues in your house, I want you to do that with mindfulness. I want you to do that as you're bringing it in, stir clockwise. If you're looking to eliminate, something from your life while you're cooking, stir counterclockwise. Use the proper herbs. Work with those plant allies, and I want you to journal about that at night. It doesn't have to be a long thing. Nobody has to see it. Just say, I made soup tonight, and I added this, and this to the soup to restore, peace in the family. And it worked. And I promise you, that's one of the most exciting and it's almost hysterical how quickly that works. There's a meme that goes around on the internet that says that soup is magic, is witchcraft, because you're taking a cauldron and you're putting different herbs and vegetables in, and you're mixing it with all of the elements. And that's a spell. But I've seen times when things have been really rough in households, including my own, where I've just decided, okay, tonight we got to make a soup, or we got to make a gravy, and got to make a sauce, because we need to address these things and let the plant allies help us. And so everybody's consuming them. They're consuming that same potion, that same spell, and it works incredibly. Like I can't even, it's the simplest of magic spells. And well, actually, the simplest is sending out love. When you don't know what else to do, you just send out love and say, let love be the foundation for every person involved in this situation, and eliminate all fear. Done. Spell over, and then you let it work. So I want you to do that, and I would love to hear in the comments below how that starts to go for you. There's really not enough people that are commenting on the on the classes. And if that's because you're not getting any value, then please tell me that as well. I'm willing to hear what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like. And if it's not meeting your expectations, the only way that I can make things better is by hearing from you. So I thank you. I thank you for spending time with us watching this on the replay. And I'll look forward to talking with you in 2 weeks.